I'm 17.
When I met him, the way he carried himself, the type of work he was doing, automatically I say he must be maybe his early 20s. He's just one of those guys that looks young.
Yeah. The lady opened the door, and out of nowhere, she was like, no Spanish, no Spanish. People who just like, dude, you don't know nothing. Stop making videos. So I'm not that person that just like, if I find a problem, I just stop. No, I always find a solution to it.
Hey, I just want to say thank you for being part of the New Jersey Business Podcast community. It is you that gives the likes, comments, shares that has enabled us to grow this podcast. And this is only the beginning. We have big plans to scale this podcast in terms of the type of guests we're going to have, in terms of the topics that we're going to cover, and more importantly, the value that we're going to bring to you. So again, I just want to say thank you on behalf of the New Jersey Business Podcast team. And I want to ask you just one favor. Wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, please subscribe. Thank you.
What's shaking, New Jersey? Welcome to another episode of the New Jersey Business Podcast. Here with you is your host, Paul Valverde, and I have with me as special guest, Sebastian Velazquez, owner of Legacy Building Media. Today, we're shooting in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Sebastian's hometown. Sebastian, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, of course, Paul. It's always an honor to be here, and I just want to give as much information as possible to you guys. I want you guys to know who I am, my story, and everything behind that. So let's get started.
Listen, I want you to know that actually we connected over social media. Is that right?
Right.
We connected over social media. And from the very beginning, no. Let me take it back a little. We actually met in person while you were doing a job. You were shooting.
Yeah. So that client, he's an investor that I work with. He just flips houses. So I was just doing content for his properties. And out of nowhere, Paul just comes and he's like, "Oh, I have a cleaning business." What was it?
Yep. I told him, I said, "Hey guys, listen, I own a cleaning business. I'm doing a little marketing in this area." So I gave some information to your client. And
he was doing advertising.
And right off the bat, I said, "Hey, you have a business card?" And he came out with his like, "Let me tap your phone and take my information."
Bro, I just had my big gimbal camera, and this guy's like, "What is this kid doing?" Filming him. So yeah, we just spoke, and then we exchanged information, and then a few months later, he just called me like, "Hey, you want to be part of the podcast?" And I'm like, "Well, okay." And here we are now.
Yeah. Fun fact though, Sebastian, can you tell our family, our community, how old you are?
I'm 17.
You would not believe it. So when I met him, the way he carried himself, the type of work he was doing, automatically I say he must be maybe his early 20s. He's just one of those guys that looks young.
Yeah.
But I could not believe that he was younger than his early 20s because of how you carry yourself. Right. The way you introduce yourself to me and the type of work that you were doing. I saw how much detail and how much attention to detail you had, right. Even in that short moment that I shared with you. And so when I was following you in social media and I saw a little bit more of your content, it really got my attention because it's really good quality content.
Thank you.
Even more so when you started sharing a little bit more about how is it that you run your business. And in this podcast, to this day, I've interviewed more than 60 business owners, entrepreneurs, including executives, presidents of large corporations, right, and moms and pops type of shops. And let me tell you, I am very impressed with the level of organization that you have, the level of knowledge that you have. So I knew for a fact that you will bring a ton of value to the podcast. So thank you very much for being here today. I want to start things off with this question.
Okay, let's do it.
If I had to ask you, what can you tell me about your life? Things that may have happened in your life that made you who you are today, that would help me understand why you are the way you are. And you could take me all the way back to childhood.
Right.
What stories will you share with me so I could understand how you are and who you are today?
Right. So even as I was growing up, to be honest, I wasn't this mature, or I didn't have this knowledge until a couple years ago, because until a couple years ago, that's when God shed light on me, like, hey, this is what I want for you. This is what you need to do. And what God told me was like, dude, you're not normal. Like, right off the bat, I started understanding that I should not conform to this world. And even as kids were cursing, or kids just did this and that, I always had a sense of understanding of what was good and bad. And because I have a love for God, I I choose to do good over bad, which is hard because it takes discipline. It's discipline over pleasure. Sometimes it's easier to do bad because it's more pleasurable. It's the easy path. But then the harder path is to do what's good, you know? And that's what many people don't do. And from an early age, I understood that if I did good, my life would be easier because I wouldn't fall into the same trap that all these people fall into. There's a Bible verse in Proverbs that says, if you go back to your own sin, it's like if you were a dog that went back and ate his own vomit. And I identify with that because each time I commit the same sin, I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So from an early age, I always I'm a very analytical person. So I always analyzed other people and how they their actions and stuff like that. And something like not only spiritual but in the economic sense. And I was like, okay, I see all these kids going to the traditional path of working in retail or working at McDonald's, and I always understood that more than anything, it's having the skill set to be able to have worth, right? Because if you have knowledge, if you have a skill set, more than just being able to apply at a McDonald's or stuff like that, that skill set can bring you further to than what a McDonald's can bring you. And one of my early entrepreneurs journeys was before the pandemic. In my neighborhood, I went door to door, and this is where I started doing sales essentially because my game plan was like, okay, every twice a week I need to take the garbage can from my house to the curb and back twice a week. And I was like, okay, I don't like doing this. What about other people? They might not like getting out of their house in the cold, in the heat, and then just bringing it out and bring it back in. And so what I did was I offered like $20 a month to all these properties, and I'm like, hey, I can do this job for you. And I was like, what? I was 12, 13 when I did this by myself. I would go around and I would do it. And I built a business plan. I'm like, hey, and I wrote like a whole like paper, like, hey, this is my contact. You can call my parents. Like, you can see that they're allowing me to do this. And it was pretty cool. But at the same time, I learned something that to this day still stuck with me, which was even because of my age, even because of how I look, um, people will judge, right? And that's where I started having a sense of what life can be because on one of the properties, I was talking, the lady opened the door, and out of nowhere, she was like, no, 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 no Spanish, no Spanish. And I was speaking to her in English, and she closed the door on me, and I was like, dang. Or there was other people who because I was so young and I wanted to hustle, they would give me the chance, right? And the same thing I encountered when starting my own business, that because I'm so young and I don't have as much work experience as they have, they doubt me because they judge a book by its cover. But all these little entrepreneur stuff of me selling candy at school, me going door to door selling at these other properties, it just little by little just made me have that entrepreneurship mindset of like, hey, I don't want to work for someone else. I'm gonna just work on myself, make sure I'm the best. I make sure I'm my best version and make sure I have the skills to be able to give results to my clients.
Thank you for sharing that. I 100% identify with you. I consider myself to be a faith-driven entrepreneur.
Right.
As a Christian, as a believer, I find it close to impossible to compartmentalize your life. Um, if you're genuinely living out your faith, you can't say like, okay, this is my faith doesn't apply to my business, or my faith doesn't apply to my
Right.
school, my faith doesn't apply to my relationships. Is you are who you are, and you should be the same person. You should be real everywhere you go. So I identify 100% what you said, and I'm gonna have a follow up question on that. But before I do that, I appreciate the fact that from a young age you already had that bug to be an entrepreneur.
Right. And just
Um,
not be normal, to be honest.
Right, it's out of the norm, and
Mm.
I understand, and it's important to me that everyone who's listening gets this, is that it's not everyone's path.
No.
You know, sometimes we want to conform to what we see because we think that's good, but it's not meant for us. It's not what
Right.
God has destined for us. It's not really. I mean, if you would have followed the norm, you would not be doing what you do,
Exactly.
right? But there may be someone who looks at you and says, "Well, I want to do that," but it may not be for them. I understand this, that entrepreneurs who do not work with, who do not necessarily work for someone else, they work for themselves. They have to work a lot harder.
Right. I always say it takes a different breed of a person to be an entrepreneur because, to be honest, an entrepreneur, they work not knowing what the future has for them. They have to take all the risk. And especially, look, my ideology was always okay, if I start this business and I fail, what am I going to lose? Nothing, because I'm so young. But then again, entrepreneurs who start later when they have kids or they have responsibilities, I don't really have responsibilities because thank God my parents support me. But entrepreneurship is a risk because a 9 to 5, it's secure. You have your fixed income, but entrepreneurship, you got to invest it all back into your business. Sometimes things fail and you got to put in cash to not let your business fall. And it takes a different breed of a person to work more than the average person every hour of the day, basically.
And that goes with also that in life we are a student before we're a teacher.
Right.
We need to learn how to follow before we can lead.
Mhm.
Some people could go just into the entrepreneurial life, and because they have such a hard working foundation and discipline, they thrive. Some
Right.
other people, in order for them to build that discipline, oftentimes they have to work for somebody else first. And for that reason, it's not for everyone, because if you're the type of person that like has an issue with punctuality or things like that,
Mhm.
if you're on your own, there's nobody keeping you in check, nobody keeping you accountable,
Right.
you'll have a worse time. So I like that you said that, and I want to go back to what you share about your faith. Um, how how do you get introduced? At what moment actually do you make what I assume was your parents' faith your own? At what moment
Right.
does that happen?
I think I always identified with free will. In the Bible, it says you can do anything you want, but not everything will be good for you. And from an early age, I would always remember my mom would tell me, Sebas, don't do this or you'll fall and you get hurt. And I would do it and I would fall and I would get hurt. Or let's say I would take something, and in the Bible, it says that if you steal something, you'll have to give, I mean, God will take like 7 times more from you than what you stole. So it's like, okay, there's a consequences for everything. Like in the Bible, it says, you can do anything you want, but not everything will be good for you. So in an early age, I understood the consequences of free will and not doing what is good. So I ultimately understood that if I followed in obedience and I followed the right path, it would be easier for me because I wouldn't be like the dog who would go back and eat his own vomit. It's like all these other people who just they go out, do drugs, have sex, and all this stuff, and at the end of the day, they're like, "Man, why did I do this? What would have happened if I had taken a different path?" And that is where I wouldn't want to be. I would say, thank God I took the right paths and I'm at because of what I chose to do and because of God's grace. You know?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I wish personally that I would have had that mindset from a younger age. You know,
Yeah.
some of us have to go through. Some of us have to hit rock bottom
Right.
before we start looking up and crying to God.
It's
But
just because most people are stubborn.
yeah, it is
And
true.
it takes time for them to understand that, hey, if you keep doing wrong, it'll bite you in the back again, you know?
And not only the consequence of bad things, but also the consequence of good things. Like, it's not only if you do wrong, something bad is gonna happen. Is if you start doing right, good things are gonna happen, and that is the beautiful thing. You reap what you sow. I want to
Exactly.
take back the conversation to your entrepreneurial journey. So you started out taking other people's trash out.
Right. I mean, the pandemic shut that down. So we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. And then after that, what was your next entrepreneurial endeavor?
I think after that, I bought a drone. I bought a drone, and I just love the drone, and I love the fact that you can just make reels. And so after that, because of my faith driven journey, I started this page called Born Again, and that's where everything started. I believe that if you follow God, everything else will come in addition. And I was like, okay. I mean, I identify with all these other kids. I know that they're going through the depression through lust, and I know that that is bad, and that's why I refrain from doing so. How about I help these other youth combat these desires? So I started that page. I posted like 30, 40 videos, English and Spanish, and I just learned. I learned how to make videos with my phone, with a light, with a little mic. And I remember I would write the scripts and I would memorize the whole thing. But little by little, I just got better at making videos. And it was just really cool because there's people like, I think I have a friend like in Asia. I don't even know where he's at. In Asia, he's like, man, you helped me so much with your videos. I'm like, what the heck? And there's also people who just like, dude, you don't know nothing. Stop making videos. So there's always negative and positive comments, but haters are gonna hate. And that's what I've learned. And I remember the first times I started posting, I'm like, okay, the first day I receive a negative comment, I'm gonna be happy with myself. Why? Because that's gonna be my first goal, have a negative comment, because that would make me understand that I emotionally moved someone so much that they had to take time out of their day to write something. So as a result of that, I turned negative comments in a positive point of view, and I just use that to just push myself even further. And then little by little, as a result of me putting God first, I just started being really good at creating reels, learning social media. And keep in mind, I only got Instagram and stuff like that like when I was like 12, 13 years old. So it's like it wasn't not so long ago, but as a result of me being a content creator, through a Christian content creator, I learned all of this stuff.
So your journey started with Born Again,
Right.
right? Is there an underscore or anything like that? It's just Born Again.
Born Again.
Awesome.
Born Again .7.
Okay. Born Again .7. So there's the Instagram handle if you guys want to check it out. And then after, that's how things got started about you messing with cameras, messing with your drone, messing with microphones.
Right.
At what point does it start becoming a business? At what point do you transfer those skills into a more like a scenario where you use those skills to start making money?
Right. So I remember my first gig. So I went to this retreat in the mountain with legendarios. It's this movements across Latin America. I'm a legendario. And what we do is we go, just like Jesus did in the desert and in the mountain, he would go and fast and just get closer to God by weakening his flesh and strengthening his spirit. So we legendarios, it's a bunch of men who go to the mountain. And one of the media guys that I was with over there, he's like a video consultant, and he's like, Sebas, you have a drone. Your dad is in the real estate industry. Buy yourself a camera and do real estate photography and videography. And so I was like, Dad, I want to start doing this. I want to start working this summer to buy my own camera equipment. And then turns out my birthday comes, and my dad, before that, he went to this videographer that gave him some headshots, and he asked him the equipment that he had, and my dad bought everything for me.
Wow.
He bought the camera, the gimbal, the mics, things for me to get started. Yeah. Right then after that, I bought all the other accessories, but that gave me the initial boost of starting everything. And it was really hard because I didn't know how to use anything. Yeah. So it was just YouTube, me going out, and I lasted like good 3-4 months just giving stuff for free, because I didn't know how to give good quality work. So yeah, once I received that equipment, it was like a toy. I just try to see what I could do with it.
I think actually that's an awesome approach. I actually use that approach in my businesses to give value up front, oftentimes for free. And what that causes, and actually let's talk about that for a second, because I feel that oftentimes there's a subculture within the entrepreneurial culture. You have people who are more about the hustle mentality, and you have people who are like, very strong about, don't give away your work, don't do things for free or whatever, which I think is good for people who are getting taken advantage of, right? But for someone who's starting out, and if you don't really know your craft yet, but you want to charge like a pro, that is not right. Like that doesn't demonstrate integrity, number one. Number two is that when you give value up front, I'm sure you've experienced this, when you give value up front, people appreciate that. If you do it with the right people, if you choose your clientele the right way, you get that feeling of reciprocity, you get that gratitude, and they become raging fans.
I've actually landed my biggest clients through that, through just giving value up front. Yeah. So
I appreciate that you mentioned that. And for a community, if you're listening, if you're one of those people who are like, I've thought about doing it, but just, I don't know. I don't know if I should. Right. Listen, right here, there's proof that principle that works.
Some advice that I can give like upcoming entrepreneurs, if you guys still don't know what to do, is just by experience, I can tell you that if you don't know what to do, just start experimenting with new stuff. And then once you niche down to one stuff that you like, for instance, me is creating reels. I create professional reels for all types of businesses. And so how I started was I just started playing around with creating reels through Born Again, and then professionally with all the camera equipment. But how you can get started is essentially start doing trials. Each time I implement a new service into my business, I do trials. I make sure that it gives me results, that it gives my clients results. And then once I know that trial is successful, then I start charging for that. And one big tip is, if you want to start charging 10K, 15K, like the professional, like high grade companies do, is you got to niche down to one service and be the best at that one service. Because you can build up to those high ticket service sales if you just niche down and you just do one service over and over and over and over again, because you'll become the best at it. So if you want to start charging a lot more, niche down to a few items and just take away the ones that aren't making you as much money.
I think that's great advice, Sebastian. Thank you. And one of the things that impressed me about you, and I want our audience to know this, is that you do a very good job at presenting yourself as a consultant, because that is what you are.
Yeah.
And for you, if you're in the New Jersey area, if you're looking for a media company that will provide you the services that Sebastian provides in terms of having professional reels.
Right. It's more, I focus on personal branding, like getting your brand, your business out there, so that people can not only buy from you like physically through referrals, but through social media. Because through social media, you can get millions of people seeing you at once, compared to just a couple hundred that see your location, Or let's say you're a consultant. I can help you get your name out there to millions of people across the world through social media.
And that's exactly what impressed me about Sebastian, is that not only is he able to provide the technical aspect of the work, but he's also capable, more than capable, to be a consultant, to help you, guide you, point you in the right direction, to give you advice on how to improve different aspects of your brand identity. So, Sebastian, I'm gonna take it back a little bit, and I'm interested in knowing: do you have friends or acquaintances who are in your age group who are
Right.
also entrepreneurs who do things like that, or do you find yourself to be alone in this?
Right. And I tell my mentor this a lot. It gets lonely. It gets lonely because it's like you're part of that 1% that does this kind of stuff, because most of the kids my age, they could care less. They could care less about their future, not gonna lie, because they're just focused in the moment, or they're just doing typical age stuff, which is not bad. I just took a non-traditional route. So what I tell my mentor is like, hey, I feel lonely sometimes. Like, I remember when I first started, even my parents, like, they're not in this industry. So it's like I didn't have anyone to go to when I had problems. Like, I didn't know who had the solutions to my problems. And so, yes, it's hard to do this alone, but like I always tell everyone, if you want to be the best, network with the best. Surround yourself with people who are already doing what you want to do at a high level. So it's hard to surround yourself with the average person, because like I said, 80% of people are broke. So most of the people aren't doing what you are doing at a high level. So you got to surround yourself with that small group of networking people that just get together and just achieve the best, have high results.
You mentioned your mentor. Let's talk about that for a little.
Right.
So you, if we follow in the timeline, you had your drone, you had the Born Again point seven, right?
Yeah.
Born Again dot seven IG handle, um, and um, and then your father gives you the equipment. You start thinking like, okay, I could make something out of this. You had that conversation with someone who had experience during that event with Legendarios. So what happens next? What's the next step that helps you launch your business?
Just getting my name out there. So what happens next is, okay, I immediately identified that I'm young. I don't have higher education. I'm still in high school. I don't have real world experience. Yes, I probably worked a few days somewhere, but I don't have a real world experience. So I immediately said, okay, what can I do to leverage my skills and my current situation? I immediately analyzed that in my home country, Colombia, there's a lot of talent. And I was like, okay, I thank God has placed me in the capital of the world that has the American dollar. The American dollar it lasts a lot and is pretty valuable in other countries. So what I did was, in my first few months, while I was giving stuff for free to all these clients, what I did was I hired these people in my team so that they can teach me and help me provide better services. So let's say I have social media managers, editors, web developers. And what I did in my first few months of my business, before I even started making money, was I started training them. I started learning with them. And now I just have a team that whenever I film, I send it to them. They edit. When I need to develop a website, we do it together with my team. And so I leverage their experience, their work experience, their higher education, so that they can put their skills to use in my company.
Yes, that's very smart.
Right. And
That's very
they're
good.
all 30, 40 years old, 20 years old, bachelors in marketing, bachelors in this and that. And I'm like, oh, I'm still in high school. And that's why I can provide better services and higher quality work than my local competition, because I'm leveraging other people's talents and I'm paying them better than what they would be paid in their own country.
I think that's something important to highlight,
Right.
right? Because number one, you're already developing an important skill that many entrepreneurs struggle with, which is delegation.
Right. Delegation is key. You need it in order to scale.
Talk about delegation. Talk about that
Right.
for a little. What has worked for you, how you learned it, what has been
Right.
difficult for you in that area. I'm sure many entrepreneurs will find that interesting.
So the thing is with delegation, a lot of business owners are scared to delegate themselves and delegate their work, because they're like, no one's gonna do my job better than I will. But in order for you to scale, you need to delegate yourself, even if it means to cut yourself in 3 parts so that 3 people can perform what you did. You still need to delegate your work because you're not gonna scale. And so before I even started making good money, I focused on interviewing. I was telling Paul the other day that I would do like 20 interviews a month, and I would just do job postings, and then I would just schedule meetings with all these random people across the world. And to be honest, I would like to be in their head while I was interviewing them, because they're probably asking themselves, who is this kid asking me these type of questions? But then again, like, it never happened. But my team, they tell me now that while I was interviewing them, they were second guessing themselves why they were even in the meeting with such a young kid. But thing is, my fundamentals were always, I think company culture is really important for me. I try to balance work and life, but I treat my team as if they were part of my family, because at the end of the day, they will help me grow the company. I alone cannot grow the company. And so, like I said, for many of these guys, my senior editor, when I got him, he wasn't even an editor. He was a graphic designer. So what I did, I was like, hey, you have a lot of ambition. You're really humble. Dude, this guy, he was earning minimum wage when I first got him. Now he's making more than the doctor over there in Colombia. And it's crazy because it's like he takes care of his family. And because of the work that I'm able to provide, he is being able to take care of his family, you know? What I did when I first got him was I gave him the opportunity. I paid for courses, his education. And because I gave him so much practice, he's really good now. And now he trains my other editors, my social media manager. He's from Venezuela. But it's through time, literally. It's delegation. You won't find the best team member at once. You just got to train them, because they will never be perfect. But my philosophy is to pay them better than anyone else would. Treat them really well. I give them incentives, bonuses. I treat them like family. Because there's these other managers that just treat people as if they were replaceable. And yes, you can replace people, but dude, give them their worth. Show them that they have value. Show them the potential that they have, and then they will treat you right. And most important, it's the vision. If you help your team understand the vision that your company has, and they believe in that vision, they will not work just for the money, but for the vision that your company has.
Yes, 100%. You cannot scale your business or even automate it or semi-automate it unless you bring other people in.
Right.
And oftentimes people have that hero syndrome, like only I can do it, no one can do it like me, which is not necessarily true. Actually, the majority of the time, it's not true at all.
Right.
There are other people who can do it much better than you. And then what happens is, I'm going to tell you, it's a common mistake. So I do something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need help. I'm overwhelmed. I need help. Oh my gosh, I need somebody to do it. And then you have this mess, and you want to dump in somebody else, thinking they'll figure it out. But that's not fair. But if you have a system, if you have a process, then you're able to break it down and say, okay, you take care of this, you take care of that, you take care of this. And they're able to more efficiently do what you were previously doing. So you just said, I have people who have higher education and more experience than I am doing the things that I don't know how to do. Mm-hmm. That's smart. That's great. So when people go and say, yeah, I'm going to hire Sebastian Velazquez from Legacy Building Media, you know, and some people could be shortchanging you like, oh my God, he's only 17. What? Man, we talk about a combination. We have a team and combined.
It's just not me. There's just so much behind the scenes that is happening. So you're not just hiring me. You're hiring the company. It's the company that you're hiring.
Exactly. I think it's important you highlight that. So you're hiring maybe 15 years of combined education. You're probably hiring over 20 years of experience. You're hiring it's a group effort, it's a team effort, and I think that's important to highlight, because oftentimes people, as you said before, would judge a book by its cover, but those people are missing out. You know what I'm saying? Those people are missing out. So if you're listening to this, I know you're a business owner. I know you're part of a community. I know that you would not doubt my word when I tell you that Sebastian stands strong and stands tall in his industry, and he will do an outstanding job. So far, all of our communication, it's been professional and it's been very much in a timely manner. So I recommend him 100%. Listen, let's go back. So the commercial is over. Just kidding. Going back to our conversation, I know that offline we were talking about how you were in a coaching program.
Right.
So let's talk a little about that, because sometimes people are like, I don't know. And I always tell people, listen, you need to have a mentor. You need to have a coach. You know, it's better when you pay someone who can teach you. So I want to know who encouraged you to have a mentor or coach, and then how you went about finding that person.
Okay, so like I told you first, I believe that you should associate yourself with people who are already doing what you want to do at a higher level. And I told you that as me being surrounded in a small town, Elizabeth, New Jersey, the kids that are around me are not doing what I'm doing. So as a result, I've been lonely, and it was really bad because I didn't know who to go to for solutions. And so the Bible says that you need to surround yourself with a counsel so that you can be able to make the right decisions, right? And more than that, it's like, you know, you go to university to learn this and that. And so I was like, okay, there's a lot of people who are already doing what I want to do at a higher level. And the only way for someone to coach you is if you give them value of some sort. You either work for them for free, you pay them. And so I was like, okay, my goal is to buy a house when I'm 18, right? But for me to scale much quicker, I first need to invest in my knowledge and education, because that will get me further along in my business, right? Because there's a lot of people that just through time, they learn by themselves through mistakes. What I like to do is I like to leverage my time. I like to pay people so that they can save me time. My mentors, what they learn in 1, 2, 3 years of falling and making mistakes and getting up, they can teach me all that in 2 weeks, 1 week. And so as a result of me understanding the fact that mentorship is very, very valuable, I literally put all my money into mentorship. All the profit I'm making is mentorship. So I have 3 mentors right now that I'm just having weekly conversations with them, one-on-one calls of them analyzing my business, structuring my offers, my packages, my future packages, the way scaling to 10K, which is my goal by the end of the year. And just they're always helping me out. So when I started realizing that I need to associate myself with the right people, I didn't care how much money it cost. I just wanted to get the same habits and the same knowledge as the people who were already doing big things.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And I want you to pay attention to, basically, he is reinvesting all of his profit,
Everything, yeah.
in his preparation, in his mentoring, his coaching, his education,
Right.
so that in the future, the return will be even higher.
Right. And I've already 3x my investment with my current coach. Like it's pretty cool because I usually like to get different coaches that specialize in different aspects. Okay, you're a coach that can help me scale my business. You're a coach that can help me get viral videos. You're my coach that can help me be consistent in my work. And like there's just different coaches that specialize in different things, and I always like to be with the best at a certain aspect.
In a certain space.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate for you sharing that. Sebastian, so share with us where you are right now,
Mm.
and what you have envisioned for the future.
The vision for the future. Well, more than anything, I would like it's called legacy building media. It's rooted on fundamentals that we don't build for today, but we build for a lasting tomorrow. So more than just making money, it's more the impact, because through content we impact people, right? So in the future, I would like for legacy building media to have that impact on business owners who want to grow their business and personal brand, but not in a destructive manner where you are teaching people the wrong things, but you are giving free education. You are teaching people how to do stuff through the internet, because I think this is the easiest time for you to learn because there's just so much information out there. So I want legacy building media to be part of that education that other people can have for free, you know?
You also mentioned something about you feeling lonely.
Right.
Um, and regardless of your age, that happens to business owners. If you're not part of a community, like I know our family, part of the community of the New Jersey Business Podcast, you're part of something, but sometimes you're alone.
Yeah.
Share with me, or tell me, what has been the hardest thing of your journey so far?
Overcoming, I would say it would be overcoming adversities, overcoming the fact that as I'm doing this, I'm learning, and just learning by myself. But I wouldn't say I'm learning by myself because I have people that support me, and just by my age, it's hard. Like I remember when I first establishing, I can't even accept credit cards. Each time someone wants to pay me with a credit card, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to set that up. I can't. Or when a client wants me to go an hour away from here, I don't drive. I'm sorry, but I get Uber, and I always find a way to overcome those stuff. Um, I'm not those people. I'm not that person that just like if I find a problem, I just stop. No, I always find a solution to it. I think that's been one of the factors that have allowed me to be here today, because I always try to find that solution regardless of what happens. Um, so yeah, like it's just not. I think I'm also like a fish. Like if you say, "Nah, Sebastian, I don't believe in you. You're too young." It's like a fish. It just falls off of me. I'm like, okay, then go to someone else.
At a personal level, have you felt affected?
Yeah, because there's even in any industry, in any entrepreneurship journey, you start doubting yourself. Am I good? People are gonna care. Am I doing the right thing? I remember when I first started, I wanted to offer like 20 different services, and I'm like, okay, do I know how to do this? No. Or am I gonna be good at this? I don't think so. It is like self-doubt overcomes you really hard. And talking to Paul, it's like this 60th episode, right? And he's telling me this statistics say that most don't overcome the third episode, the 13th episode, and now he's in the 60th episode, right? And so it's like it's more about caring about the journey than where you are at now, because if you care about instant gratification, you will always fail because you care about the results now. It's always about the journey. There's a bunch of entrepreneurs that started businesses failed, but it's about enjoying the journey so that you can get to the end goal. You're always going to be in a journey. Like you will finish the journey when you die. So you might as well enjoy the journey and don't look at today, but look for the lasting tomorrow. Make sure that your results, that what you're doing today can compound and get to the goals that you want for tomorrow.
If I ask you, what has been the most difficult moment for you emotionally,
Right.
can you take me to that moment?
Um well, I think it's with my parents. Um they had me really young, then they separated. Then my dad got a divorce. My mom, she had my sister during that time, and now they're together. So after like 14 years, they got back together. Now they're married. So I think that whole process of me living in two different households, that was really tough for me. But I think it influenced me to become independent. Because another thing that I haven't mentioned is my dad. He came to this country at my age, 17, And when he came, he told me that it was either he ate or he paid rent. And that hit me hard because I was like, okay, because you know those generational things that happen. And I'm like, okay, Sebastian, what I know that I'm not gonna pay rent or eat because God placed me in a different circumstance. But what type of challenge is God going to present me now that I'm turning of age, I'm being an adult? And my dad is like, even though that you have all these blessings, you still need to be independent because you never know what can happen. So I don't do this stuff because of necessity. I do this because of the legacy that I want to carry and because I want to be able to take care of myself when things get hard because I want to be preventative. Even my team tells me, one of my team members, he's like, Sebas, I've never seen such a hardworking kid that does this just because he wants to. He's like, Sebas, you live in a good house, you have a great family, you don't have any necessities, and thank God I have no necessities. And he's like, why do you do it? I'm like, I just want to carry my legacy, you know? My dad always says that his roof is going to be my floor. And he wants me to be his arrow, and he wants to push me as far as I can get.
There's a Bible verse that talks about that.
Yeah.
Like an arrow in the warrior's quiver is your children born in your youth.
Mm-hmm.
That resonates with me a lot, Sebastian. Is there something that you would want to share with everyone before we close this episode?
I guess if you're an entrepreneur, which I can relate myself to, it's hard. It's definitely a hard journey because the future is not promised. And what I do, even if you believe in God or not, I always place everything in God's hands because I know that He takes care of me, and I know that the future that He wants for me is a future of success. So if you don't know what you want to do, talk to God as if He's your friend, because He is your friend, and ask Him, hey God, what am I meant for in life? What is my purpose? And He will let you know. Like I said, I started with trials. If I think I'm going to be good at something, I just give something for free, and I just make sure I can give results. Because once you give results, remember, you can become the best at that one thing because you do it over and over again, and you will be known for that one thing. Like Jeff Bezos, he started selling just books, and because he got so good at selling books, he started selling all these other things. So start mastering one thing and then start diversifying to these other things. And don't try to do everything at once because you'll just be mediocre at everything.
There you have it, family. We love y'all. I'm sure you enjoyed this episode. I've gotten a ton of value from our conversation. You'll see more of Sebastian for sure. So God bless you all.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, go to NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. That's NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. We can't wait to hear from you and your business. You can also visit our website to learn about sponsorship opportunities and how to qualify for a complimentary gift. Thanks again for listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast.